Right. Okay. I have tea, I have water, I have hopefully everything set up. So we are here really to get to the nitty-gritty of everyone's favourite, lovable, poor put upon archival assistant, Martin. Yes. So, a brief bit of history then. I can't quite remember the first, the episode where it actually crops up. It's probably towards the end of season 1 where he's actually living in the archives. Yeah, it probably is 39 or so, because you get the first part, you basically get the first 4 words of a poem. Yes, as Anna says, streets. And those 4 words that you get on in the actual episode are the only bits of poetry that Johnny actually wrote. There wasn't actually any intention for there to be more. It was almost, and this is, pulling back the curtain, a throwaway thing that was just a part of Martin's character. He was a not very good poet, and that was something that would be mentioned and not really dwelt upon in any way. That said, it was something that you all found very interesting, and it was something that I, as a poet, also found very interesting. And given that I had also, at the time, been commissioned to write some genre poetry, some horror poetry actually, for an indie RPG called Lovecraft-esque by Josh Fox and Becky Annison. But as part of, they were running the Kickstarter at the time, and I, as one of the stretch goals, they commissioned me to write some poetry in the style of H.P. Lovecraft for that. One of the things that Lovecraft was known for is his love of the classics, of form, and ensuring that his pieces fit very strict meter, very strict rhyme schemes. He was a form poet first and foremost, and so there were 3 pieces that I wrote for Lovecraft-esque that very much mimicked that sort of style. And in a similar vein to The City, which is one of the ones that I used as particular inspiration, we got this one, which I call The Piscean Problem. One of the things, just as a prelude before I read this piece, it talks about something which is known as a landscape zodiac. So particularly in the early 20th century, there were a number of New Age folk who insisted that certain features of various landscapes could be interpreted as, in inverted commas, the ancients or whoever, prehistoric folk, looking up the skies and mapping out what they could see in the heavens down on the ground. And in particular, there is one near Glastonbury, and Glastonbury in the UK has always had a significance for travellers and New Age folk, strongly connected to the myths of King Arthur and so forth. But there is one of these landscape zodiacs supposedly in the features around Glastonbury and around Glastonbury Tor, which is centred in this case around a place called Weary-all Hill. So this is the Piscean Problem. I sought a lake of distant time from which to scale a peak sublime, whose shores 'gainst which a bark did breach, for noble birthing place to reach, and lay the golden grail to rest, with guardians by all heaven blessed. I walk Leviathan's long tail, supposed pinned by bride's travail, along the brew on eastern route, where mystic trods I follow suit. In pathing steps with ley-lined sense, and yet ignoring myths intense, which rippled airborne memories, and stirred some ancient boundaries. So fixed by my journey's end, up Wearial Hill my path did wend, though what I'd find I was not cert, I would no more remain inert. Some crownward spirit issued call, and beckoned me to come install myself as curate knight errant, a new world order adherent. It wished me claim a blissful draught, distilled of holy chalice craft. Each onward foot was heavy stepped, but I'd not from the light be kept, till nearly spent I crested for the lofty goal of Carigor. But passing unseen gaze in haste, revealed my fears now all unlaced, as shadow bled o'er fancied grace, facsimile of a knight's embrace, and where I thought seraphs regaled, convulsed chitterings now assailed. I realized I'd a veil transgressed, with parting now to dreads repressed, and fact erased from almanac, deep locks in landscape zodiac. Dark waters now surrounded me, not halcyon lake, but fetid sea, where screeching, oozing, sable things are nightmare dark imaginings. Swoop arcane patterns overhead for rituals that new horrors bred. A vermeil moon oped baleful eye, unhallowed light to sanctify. Proceedings foul of eldritch rite, revoking sanity in blight. My grip was growing ere more weak, when rose ahead all slickly sleek, with a reeking ichor of the deep, vile serpent unpinned from its sleep. Aghast I watched it wake, its wake in royal, churn-grasping masses railed by coil, these bloated nameless now astir, evoking drowned sepulchre. All given slick viridian birth, they slithered, slime-wreath tainting earth. Transfixed I could only stare, while squelching forms licked old bones bare. I wondered if they held my fate, for stumbling through this nether gate. So we have... That was what I was doing as Johnny was writing season 1 of the Magnus Archives. And when it came to hearing that Martin was writing poetry, I thought, well, we've just launched our Patreon. I am very much on a horror poetry kind of kick. Shall I take a stab at writing Martin's poetry? Johnny and Alex both agreed, and we thought it would be particularly good if it wasn't just something that we put out in text form, but that we could get Alex to actually record it in Martin's voice. So I wrote Street, poem 1 of that thing, and yeah, it came out pretty well.